Hello and welcome to the Lume Plotters. Today we are 3 people in this podcast. We have a special guest today. Omar Kabbani is here. He is, and I hope I didn't butcher the name, and you can correct me in a second. He's running not only a microbrand watch show, which he will explain to us, he's also a community leader in watch-related groups, the MIC, which I'm part of, and we will explain everything that you need to know. But stick around. Most important is that there is a big event coming in November, and Omar will tell us all about it. So, welcome everybody. Welcome Omar. Welcome Martin.
Hello.
Welcome. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yes, good to have you. So, lots of things to discuss because we have had some of our listeners' feedback in the past. We said, we wish that you would talk a bit more about microbrands. And I think, okay, now we are with a bang because now we have you on.
I keep getting this message on Instagram. One guy in particular. This, if memory serves, his name was at the Ty. And he messaged me a number of times about microbrand related stuff. And then we had Julian on, who also talked about microbrands before. But he keeps telling me, like, why am I so microbrand averse? Every time I buy a watch, it's always from a major brand, right? I've never owned a microbrand. I've considered a microbrands, but I'm still kind of, not feeling that out. So this is a conversation we went into before as well, is kind of the idea of how long will this brand stick around? Will there be warranty? Will there be replacement parts for these watches? So this is, of course, one of the things that personally I struggle with. If I'm going to lay out, and these microbrand watches, they're not always cheap, right? We're not talking, $500 Baltics. There's the one new one that I was really eyeing. I don't know if you guys saw this one that just came out. It was a dive watch, which of course I forgot what the freaking name of it was. I will figure it out in a moment, but it was like $5,000, right? When you're looking at something this piece, and of course the movement is serviceable, but what about the strap? What about the case? What about the pushers? What about the crown? What about
the dial, the hands,
exactly.
The crown stem, whatever it might be. Yeah, so, there's a couple of things.
This is my fear always. The more you spend, is it going to actually be worthwhile? But nonetheless, we'll get into this.
Yeah,
I'm sure Omar will have huge things to say. But before we even get started,
okay,
Omar, what are you wearing on your wrist?
Interestingly enough, I'm not actually wearing a microbrand today. I'm actually wearing, I know, shocking horror. I've actually have my Tudor Pelagos 39 on today. Oh, snap. Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice choice, sir.
Yes, I was between this and the Black Bay 54. So I went with the Pelagos.
Okay. It's funny, we were having a conversation about it on the MIC chat this morning, and some people were saying, the watch itself, because it's just all titanium, could be a bit boring. And I pointed out the fact it's an absolute strap monster. I mean, you could put any strap on this watch and changes it up completely. So,
I agree. And I had the FXD before I had this. And my issue with the FXD was, of course you could put any strap on it, but I miss the titanium bracelet. Like the titanium bracelet adds so much.
I know what you mean.
It's just so gray. Like you see it in the screen right now.
It's a cool color.
How gray it is. And that's what I love about titanium. It's just such a cool color.
I'm not sorry, go ahead, Ralph.
No, please, you're the guest.
Well, I was saying when I first unboxed it, I did think the bracelet was a little bit sharp. It was just the finishing. It was the edges were very sharp, and I think after just wearing it to death, it's kind of softened it a bit. It's either that or I've just got used to wearing it on the skin. But it doesn't dig into my wrist as it used to when I first got it. So it's a much more comfortable wearer now. But I've heard this complaint about the bracelet before.
I have too, and I haven't experienced this. So I've had 2 of these. This one is actually Ralph's. I bought it from Ralph.
Now it's yours. Was
Yeah,
mine.
so Ralph wore it in for me. But no, my original one that I had at first that I sold, I also had no issues with it. What I do see is what people talk about with the Lume. The hands and the indices don't match up in terms of the Lume brightness. That's the only thing I see.
Which is interesting given they're solid blocks of Lume. I mean, you'd expect it to be like a torch, but it's...
No, but the Lume itself, the blocks are brighter than the hands.
Yeah, the hands
And
are
the
a
hands
bit
are not
on the
blocks.
weaker
And
side.
that's why
this
I'm
is true.
guessing this is happening.
But I must say, I had no complaints about the longevity of the Lume, but you're right that the Lume on the hands is a bit less intense, is a bit less thick, obviously, as well. So there's a bit less there. So, yeah, that's true. But I think
everybody
from a,
compares this to the FXD, but the FXD doesn't have the Lume blocks.
I need to do a small pitch here because I sold Martin this watch only because I have potentially something coming in that will replace that kind of use case in my collection. But I love that watch. I think it's one of the best watches I've ever had. I've wore it really to death because it's so comfortable to wear. It's just so easy to read. It's just a pleasure to wear. I put it on the 5-link titanium bracelet from, I don't know if it was Strap Code or Uncle Seiko or something, but it is incredibly comfortable on that. I still have that, Omar, if you're interested. And I still have the Zeelande rubber strap for it, which I know that it comes with a rubber strap, but I didn't like the end links.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the rubber strap it came with, to be honest.
It wasn't so comfortable for me, this rubber strap.
Me neither.
But the Zeelande one is just out of this world. That is the most comfortable rubber strap that you can have. So I have these two because Martin didn't want them. So if you're interested,
Titanium.
yeah, but one of them, the Jubilee bracelet, is also titanium. It's just super comfortable because it's just.
By the way, I found the watch that I was talking about.
Okay.
And this is the L'Aventure Marine Type 3 chronometer. If you haven't seen this, it is an absolute
woof.
Yeah,
insanely cool. There's
a proper tool watch.
Exactly. There's a white dial with full Lume dial, and then there's a black dial, and both of them look so cool, but they're $5,000, and it's a Kickstarter brand, right? And to give a Kickstarter brand $5,000, that would be very
Kickstarter is always a bit of a double-edged sword. There's people who only had good experiences. Some had some bad ones, so you never know. But there's lots of brands, microbrands started on Kickstarter, and look where they are now, right? I mean, there's some amazing success stories from there. I'm, by the way, wearing there's also a microbrand from at least from how many watches they sell. Gérard Perregaux, Laureato in ceramic. Have at the moment also no microbrand in my collection. I had a Baltic, wasn't the bronze aqua scarf, I think. I thought it was a lovely watch, but when I had it, something was missing, so I sold it for quite quickly. I didn't warm up as much as I thought I would love it, but what you do.
Now,
so
by the way, I heard a story about your watch, this one that you're wearing right now. A guy bought this watch, still under warranty. Okay? And this was on Reddit recently, big blow against GP in terms of just being pissed off. Apparently, GP has one of those warranties where you buy it and then you can extend it, right? Like GLC does this. Yeah. And this guy bought the watch. It was like 1 year old. And he did not extend the warranty. But the warranty should have been to like 10 years.
No,
or whatever, 8
only
years
if you extend it. If you have to register, yeah.
Exactly. So he didn't register it. So the clasp broke.
Yeah.
So the ceramic on the clasp broke. So he contacts his AD and they say, oh yeah, the watch should still be under warranty. And of course it wasn't. So the guy's pissed because they say that you never registered the warranty.
Yeah.
So therefore you only had like, I think 2 years at the beginning and that's it. So the additional 5 or whatever years didn't come. So of course he's upset because he's like, well, I forgot, like, sorry, but the brand doesn't care. And he's like, I paid an insane amount of money for this watch. And the fact that the brand doesn't even give you a little bit of wiggle room, to the point where they said you have to pay $500 I think it was around $350 or $500, something ridiculous, for insured shipping to the service center to even get it looked at. So the brand wouldn't even cover the shipping for service.
But this is rubbish because you can remove the bracelet, right? It's not.
Once again, I however they did it, this was a Reddit post. Take it with a grain of salt. I don't know how realistic it is.
Yeah.
But a ceramic clasp breaking, I can totally understand, right? Because
this can happen, of course.
banging it down.
Anything a ceramic can break if you hit it hard enough.
Yeah.
I have had, this is my third ceramic watch. I have had no bad experiences. And I am clumsy and I bang into things. A few things where I thought, oh, that's definitely nothing good, but nothing ever happened. I must say, of course, the benefit of ceramic is that it will always look pristine. There's no scratch whatsoever on this watch, right? Mm-hmm. The only thing that can happen is that it actually chips.
Yep.
But now, I mean, the ceramics also have become better and better from a material science perspective. So I don't, of course, there are the odd cases that something breaks. It can happen, but generally. So, I think just it outweighs definitely the amount of fun that you have. I think the risk that you might have. Not having scratches is cool if you don't like scratches, right? Like Martin does.
I love scratches.
I think it's amazing if you have a watch that looks pristine even after 10, 20 years. And it just feels it's warmer than metal. It is easier to wear. It's super light, super robust. I think I just love it. I mean, enough about the watch, but I think from a warranty perspective, I think there's maybe also the AD is a bit to blame there. He should push harder with GP to just do a bit more.
But so if I'm not mistaken, GP has bought itself.
Yes, management
out of the
buyout
group, right?
Yeah, part
so
of the
now they're
Sovint
independent.
Group. Yeah, sort of. It's a management buyout that they did. GP and Ulysse Nordin are now part of the Sovint Group. So the former CEO basically got a few investors in and bought them from Kering Group.
Yeah, and this is what they were saying. This guy was saying that after this, you would think that they would want to help their customers, right? Because they would have more of a kind of
more commercial element and sort of business practices.
Exactly. But, you're a smaller company now. You want to kind of do that extra thing.
It shouldn't, in my opinion, it shouldn't matter whether you're part of a group or not. It's just about good quality customer service.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's nothing worse than Rivoli service. Like, Rivoli service is the absolute.
No, it depends, really. Sometimes you get good experiences, sometimes you're bad. So, but coming back to Omar and the microbrands, I think we can take a step back from service and warranty and all of these issues, negativity. Let's say, what is actually a microbrand and what is an independent, and when is a watch an established brand? Because we have so many watches that become, let's say, Baltic. I mean, they are around for a couple of years. They are producing quite a lot of watches. Are they still a microbrand?
This is the eternal question. I get asked this a lot, and we could talk about this for hours and hours because there is no set definition, one size fits all. I think a lot of collectors have different viewpoints. Look, what I would say from a general perspective is there are markers to this. Some people use these markers to help define what is a microbrand versus what is an independent. Markers exist, such as are they direct to consumer sales? Do they have a physical store? Are they part of a conglomerate or a family company or something? Price point is another one. So many different variables and factors. For me personally, they're not all. I mean, whilst they're useful to have, I don't think. Again, one size fits all. I think there are examples we can all find where brands don't necessarily fit into these categories and fall into a neat definition. So for me personally, I'll give you my take on it. I actually think there's three categories. and it's great that you mentioned Baltic because they are one of the three categories. I think there are micro brands in the true sense. I think there are independent brands in the true sense. And I think there is nowadays a new category, which I like to call micro indie, just for sake of argument, where brands fall in the middle. Now, these could either be brands that don't fit either definition and therefore need their own category, or they could be brands who are on a journey, right? They start off as micros, and because of the success they are having and the evolution of the brand, they are actually becoming an independent. They're not quite there yet, and therefore they fall into this middle category. And we have this issue with MIC. I mean, Ralph, you're a member, so you know we have, over close to 250 brands participating in our community. And we recently launched a separate independent subgroup for chats about independence. And a lot of the members are asking us, well, how did you define this? I said, I don't want anything to do with it because it's just, you're asking for complaints. But really, look, insofar as the community is run, it's how a brand chooses to define itself. Right? Who are we to say to a brand, no, you are not an independent, you are a micro brand, or vice versa? So in that respect, the decision is theirs. But anyway, I go back to the three definitions. So for me, you mentioned Kickstarter. That's a great place to start. These are watch enthusiasts, typically speaking, who are really into watches, who want to set up their own brand. Traditionally speaking, and the most common example is that they get supplied parts, right? They buy off-the-shelf parts, whether it's the case, the dial, the hands, and of course the movement. And they assemble the watches, brand them, and sell them. This is a very typical type of a micro brand. There isn't really any sort of in-house manufacturing or artisanship involved. Of course, there's design, but I'm talking about the actual hands-on manufacturing elements. So that for me is, a clear kind of micro. With regards to an independent, I see that's where, real in-house manufacturing and artisanship come into it. When we think about a watchmaker sitting behind the desk, filing away at a certain piece or a component or hand finishing, whatever it may be, that image in your mind strikes me as more of an independent. It's a very general viewpoint, but that's how I sort of take it. And I'll stop there because I can go on for hours about this. No, that's how I define it.
That's a very good point. I mean, I have two questions in this regard coming to exactly that area. One of them is, for example, when you have all of these fake rumors about Rolex and other brands just being 100% made in China and just Swiss made stamped on it, and it's all anyway coming from China. And then you have, of course, this whole assembler approach, right? Where you actually don't really care that much where this part comes from unless it has your quality requirements. If it's made in Italy, if it's Switzerland and France, or in China. If the quality is what you want as the producer or assembler of that watch, as the designer of that watch, do you really care that much? Is it really important to have that kind of heritage or, let's say, proof of manufacturing in a specific country? For microbrands, and that's the question, what do they bring on the table if you are just somebody who has just a vision? And then it seems right now to be a bit provocative here, that everybody wants to have their own brand. There's so many coming up, right? So some of them just come up, have one model, maybe have a second model, don't know where to go because they have exhausted their design that was in them. And some go on for forever, right? And become really established brands and just have that, the whole momentum in them just to become bigger. What do microbrands bring to the table that the established brands don't?
Okay. Well, I mean, there's a few points to unpack from what you just said
Yes.
there. So let me start off with what the first thing you said about do people really care about where parts are assembled or where they come from? It's purely subjective, and I think you will find some collectors who are purists, and they do care about these things. I have a few friends who, my goodness, they could even name the component part itself by way of a serial number. I mean, they go to that granular level of detail because they care. The Swiss-made moniker for me is just complete wish-wash. Honestly, I wish the industry would properly fix that definition. We all know it's easy to get a Swiss-made stamp on a dial nowadays. It's it's more about 60% of the assembly of the watch. In Switzerland, it's not necessarily about where the components are manufactured or made or wherever. So, that argument aside, I think it depends. I think it's subjective. For me personally, no, I don't necessarily care that, Rolex or some other of these established brands make parts in China. One may argue
For the record, they don't, but yes.
We should welcome it, because if all the parts were manufactured in Switzerland, believe me, the retail price would be a lot higher. So, in some respects, economies of scale kick in, and you have to sort of outsource cheaper labor, cheaper manufacturing techniques to make the watches affordable to the masses. So, I think it's fine, personally speaking. Now, in terms of the second part of what you said, what do microbrands bring to the table? Well, firstly, you don't have to buy 5 different models to get the thing you want. Accessibility. You walk into a Rolex store, you want a specific Daytona, good luck buying it straight away.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because we know with a lot of these microbrands now, it's become the exact same game, or a slightly different variety of the game, right? We have all of these microbrands who are doing these drops, limited drops.
Oh, but you're talking about limited editions. Yeah, but you're talking about limited editions.
They're just full on, they're no longer going to be
like small MOQs and small batches.
Exactly. So if we look at, what was the...
Studio Underdog, for example.
Studio Underdog, I was thinking
Corona,
Tokyo.
Ming as well sometimes.
All of these have all done a drop, it's sold out, and that's
but you can buy a core collection Studio Underdog. It still exists on their website. So you're referring to specific models which they create a buzz around the brand.
And you can still buy a two-tone diamond dial Datejust. You're referring to a certain collection that you can't get.
It's always...
Okay. It's a fair point, but again, we're generalizing here because you will obviously pick examples which fall foul of what I'm saying. But we're talking generally speaking, accessibility, right? Accessibility. Okay. I don't think the majority would argue that you could pick up a core collection micro brand easier than an established brand.
100% for sure. I think we have to just inject there a bit. Sure, there will be brands who do certain things, like say we have a core collection, they have limited editions. Most of the micro brands, I must say, don't have like, we have 100 pieces, when they sell out, that's it, they're gone. They usually don't do this. The trend is now to say you can order for the entire day, 24 hours ordering window, and we will just make all of the watches that are being ordered in this window. Like Studio Underdog does, for example.
That would be fine. But I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, some brands do that. Atelier Wen recently did that as well with the purple dial. So I think these are signs that the industry is changing, that customer tastes are changing, our buying habits are changing, we are adapting. So it's just a new way of doing things. But I think most of them will have a core collection that you can pick up.
Absolutely.
The second thing that I would say, and this might be contentious, so I'm expecting Martin to come back and challenge this point, but innovation. Again, I'm singling out a couple of brands in my mind that I'll come on to, but I think microbrands to exist, and Ralph, this actually tackles one of your points earlier as well, because it is true there are many microbrands popping up all over the place now. And I think in part that's because of advances in technology. You can buy a desktop CNC machine nowadays, right? Relatively affordable. You couldn't have had that 10 years ago. So, things are easier, right? Your entry to market is easier. You've got crowdfunding like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and these other places. It's become easier to fund a project. So you're right. There's a plethora of new brands setting up. Does that mean they will exist in 5 to 10 years? A lot of them won't. A lot of them won't because they are not being treated as proper business plans. They're not going into this with a view of setting up a brand, establishing a brand, growing it, and becoming mainstream. Someone might just have a very cool idea and they just want to drop one watch, or two watches, jump on the bandwagon, make a quick buck and move on. And there's many of those as well. But so that I don't lose track of my point, I think the innovation that microbrands are bringing to the scene is great because it's such a fiercely competitive segment of the market. To stand out, you've got to do cool stuff. You can't just, sit on your laurels and be safe. There's too many brands that have, just, I don't want to call them plain vanilla watches. That's being unkind because some people love plain vanilla watches, but really pushing innovation, doing cool stuff, doing different things, whether it's a new material, whether it's a new application of Lume, whether it's even a module on top of an existing movement that brings something kind of fun and different. And there's so many examples of these types. So, I think that in itself is a selling point. And obviously price as well. Let's be honest. I mean, Martin, I know at the outset in the intro, when we were talking before we went live, I think you were talking about, the cost of some of these micro brands are so high. And well, what happens with servicing them down the line? What happens if they're not around in a few years? And I think by and large, I mean, there will be a couple of examples like that, but by and large, I would say the 90% of the micro brand segment doesn't fall into that category really. Particularly at the sub 5,000 mark. I don't know. I mean, I ask you to challenge that point, but I think those key factors are what make it quite enjoyable.
No, I've been to the event in where was it in the in Alcus where we had these independent days last year.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I had a look around, and I must say, I was blown away by some of the craftsmanship that I've seen, some of the complications that some people have developed. The one where every hour area flips around, and I forgot the name of the brand.
Frederic Jouvenot.
Jouvenot, exactly. And I had a 20-minute conversation with the person who actually designed this watch and made this watch, and it's just incredible. This is one of the things that I really, really like personally. Access to the people who are actually behind the brand. I'm
so pleased you said that. I'm so pleased you said that. This has got to be the number one, I think, reason why people are gravitating towards this segment. Now, for the sake of, I think, the listeners to this, I think, Ralph, what you're doing is you're putting sort of micro brands and independents into one category because Frederic Jouvenot is most definitely not a micro brand.
Sure.
I mean, he's a true independent, and so are many of the other brands at Independence Days. But the same arguments apply. So I think for the purposes of this point, we can categorize them in the same way.
Okay,
accessibility
so
to the watchmaker.
Full-on Murray, for example, the same. Different. I mean, like it's a micro brand-ish. Maybe they're already established, GPHG awards, winners, and all of these things. But they were also there, and you can also talk to them, right? They have people there.
Yes, absolutely.
You can talk to.
It's the storytelling. It's the storytelling, right? It's the access to the watchmaker. It's having that human connection, whether it's their design inspiration into the piece, learning about the challenges they've had to overcome to make the piece. And it's the personal connection with the watchmaker that gets you into the brand in the first place. A lot of the pieces that I own, I had lengthy conversations with the watchmaker before purchasing the piece, and it was actually believing in their vision, believing in their story, liking the person, establishing that human connection with them, which was half the selling point for me. You don't get that from established brands. You just don't.
I think some do, but it's very, very rare.
Very rare.
If
Yes.
you are
It is very rare.
if you are
but
super,
also-
if you are a super VIP, or you run a podcast like we do, and you are invited to, let's say, to talk to people like Tag Heuer, and you have the person responsible for the movement making there, right? Carole Forestier Kasapi. That's amazing. You talk to this person, and you can talk really details about the little details of the chronographs and whatever it is, and it's just fantastic. It brings you closer to this brand. But who can do that? Who of the 500,000 people who buy a Tag Heuer watch actually have this chance? And that's different with a microbrand, because you can just basically send an email.
But I'm going to play
and
devil's
talk to
advocate,
people.
and I'm going to say with a big brand, you don't need to do this. It's because big brands have brand identities. You know what the brand stands for. You generally have a feeling or an idea of what the brand wants to accomplish. We look at Rolex. You have an idea of the kind of stuff Rolex will do. You know what they're going to come out with. Once in a while they surprise us a little bit, but generally you know of the reliability. Everyone in the watch community knows about the servicing, the everything.
But you're not talking about these kind of things to the brand owner.
No, but here's my
Right.
point: is you don't need to talk to them because everything is already accepted. If you have a company that's established, that's been around the block, that's done all this. At the beginning, Rolex had to do all this, right? What was his name? Now that I'm blanking. What's the Rolex guy's name?
Hans, you mean?
Hans Willdorf.
Yeah.
Hans Willdorf had to go door to door explaining to everybody why his idea was good. That is when he was a microbrand, right? When he was an independent microbrand. He's still an independent technically, but at the same time, this is how you get started. But at some point, you no longer have to explain everything to everyone. Because
You're using the word "have to," and no one has to do anything. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Okay, you're right.
But most people want to have that personal connection because it's the nerds. We're all nerds at the end of the day when we're collecting these types of things, and having that human interaction and that personal connection, listening to someone's story. It's a huge selling point.
I 100% agree with you. If I hadn't talked to Edouard Melan on Dubai Watch Week in 2017, I wouldn't, or 2019, I don't know when it was, I wouldn't have bought a Moser watch.
Yes.
The brand would have been nice, but I had such a soft spot for this brand because I really liked the people behind it. And
But
like
if
the
you
people
didn't
from
like the
Laurent
watch,
Ferrier, for
or
example.
not that you didn't like the watch, you let's say in this case,
Sure.
you wouldn't have paid that much money for a watch. But in the terms of these micro brands, right, or these independents, a lot of the time you're with the independents, you can spend insane amounts of money, right? With the micro brands, it's a little bit less, or you're not spending as much money. With the micro brands, both independents and micro brands are still, we're not talking about your Roger Smiths here. They are still trying, they're vying for customers, right? Because they're not a household established brand. They need as many customers, so they have to outreach and they have to network.
But believe me,
to get these
established brands really want to have more customers too. It's not that they
everybody
don't
wants
need
more
to.
customers at the end of the day, right?
There's only one that might need to.
But in these cases, when you talk about your Edward Melans, if Edward Melan was not going to all of these events and doing all of these talks and doing all of these outreaches, a lot of people wouldn't have heard of the name Moser, right? It's a lot of these kinds of things that these independents do that get the community, especially the watch nerds, on board with them, and you become familiarized with the brand, and you become kind of as you said, you get a soft spot and then you go and spend your money.
That's exactly the point we are making. It's just like you have access to people behind the brand, and that brings people into the brand, and that makes them.
Yes, but my argument is that they have to do this.
No. They don't have
and if they
to.
don't, they don't have to. Nobody has to do anything.
They don't have to.
But if they don't do it, they would fail.
No, they wouldn't fail. They would be just having a different business model. I think Rolex chooses, for example, let's do the big one, Rolex. They don't want to have a person behind it. Because let's be honest, we had the same thing with, let's say, the perfume industry. There were people that created perfumes. That was how it was. It was called this person's perfume. Eventually, brands kept on making perfumes, and they wanted to remove the person and put their brand on it. Now it was the Gucci. Now it was the whatever, Acqua di Parma, or whatever it might have been. And this was a brand that made these perfumes. Now we're seeing a shift again. We're seeing people saying like, okay, I'm following somebody who designs specific perfumes and scents, and I want to know who is the person behind that scent, for example. And so this is a bit like that when you have certain people moving from one brand to another brand. Let's say with the example from the movement person being responsible for movement design at Cartier, now working for Tag Heuer. People actually find this amazing and fantastic and are drawn now to a brand that they formerly wouldn't be interested in because there's a person that they have respect for. But Rolex is a company that doesn't want that. Rolex wants to be absolutely independent from. Ideally, they don't even want you to know who's the CEO. They don't care. The brand is above everything. And this is okay for some brands because that's what they can control. That's their marketing. That's their appearance. But there's a lot of people who actually want to know who's the person behind this, who is actually the person who made it. And if you have, for example, this story from Philippe Dufour of how he tried when he started his own brand and how he went to Japan, and because the Japanese are so inclined to actually see the master who actually created that product, he had, just he ran into open doors there suddenly. And suddenly he got a foot in selling watches because he had found this audience that actually appreciates knowing the person who made the watch. And I think this is a very different way of doing this. And established brands don't want this because if this person leaves, you lose that kind of influence. And that's why they don't want you to have the person behind the brand. Right? The designer behind the Rolex. They don't want you to know who designed this brand. Could have been Gerald Genta. Who knows? You will never know who designed which watch from Rolex because that's the point. The
irony in what you're saying is that, Rolex probably have the biggest marketing budget of any brand on planet Earth.
Yes.
Martin, going back to your point, yes, you're right. I mean, of course, every brand needs more customers and needs to generate more sales. But Moser aside and those types of independents aside, the large majority actually don't have a budget for marketing. They may be lucky to attend one fair or exhibition every year. I'll give you a great example. The AHCI, right? Members of the AHCI, they exhibit once a year together during Watches and Wonders in Geneva at the Iceberg, Masters of Horology. You go in and you're literally meeting some of the best minds in the world of horology, right? These are all independents. They all need to go to marketing school. Believe me. I mean, these guys are creating exceptionally beautiful, complicated watches. Yes, they're not cheap, but the vast majority of people don't even know these brands. They unless you have the opportunity to meet with them and learn more about the brands, there is literally nowhere else for you to do that. They don't get mainstream media coverage. They're not plastered at the F1 races. They're not plastered at Wimbledon. They're not plastered at different events. So this is the point we were making about, establishing that personal connection, because part of it is helping them on their journey. You have to really buy into what they're doing. It's not necessarily just having that human interaction. It's also helping them, supporting them on their journey. And that obviously gives rise in itself to other advantages. And this is a good time for me to mention customizations. When you get that established relationship and you start talking with the watchmaker about designing your own piece, yes, of course, you can order a standard catalog model if that's what you want, but in most cases, they will be totally amenable to doing some customization. And this is super cool. This is, again, it really makes you feel like your opinions are heard. They want to give you what you want. And again, generalization here, but most established brands are not going to agree to do customization for you unless you are Ed Sheeran. So, you know, it's not easy. So these are all the advantages, you know, going back to how we started this about, you know, the micro and indie scene. It's just a totally different offering. It's a different buying experience. You feel you're actually contributing towards someone's success, and you know when it's so knife edge. You know they live and die by literally a handful of sales per year. It makes an enormous difference to that individual whether they survive another year or not. You know, if Rolex loses 10% of sales, believe me, they're not going to go belly under. You know, but
of course not.
If you're an independent, that will impact them greatly. So,
totally,
anyway,
totally. And I think this is a good segue to say, like, okay, what are you offering them, Omar, as and your event that you're doing? So, what are you offering there for us as the end consumers and for the brands?
Let's talk about the event. Give us a little background before we go get
what
into
is
this.
The event
Tell us about the event, and then we can get into this.
Okay, sure. Well, so our event it's called Timezones. It's going to be held in Dubai on the 21st and the 22nd of November. So yes, it does overlap with Dubai Watch Week for a couple of days, and it's the only event of its kind in the region, and it's focused exclusively on micros and independent brands. We're not going to be showcasing or exhibiting any established brands. That's not what we are about. And it's a gap in the market. Dubai is growing as a very important horological center. You know, it's really been put on the map by Dubai Watch Week. I mean, you know, we've got to applaud that event because it's really cemented Dubai's position as a really major, important horological event on the calendar. And the event will be held very close by to the new Dubai Watch Week site, actually. It's at the Armani Hotel in Burj Khalifa.
It's just a genius move. You can literally walk over there in 2 minutes from the...
You can.
Dubai Watch Week event.
Your walking pace might be a bit faster than mine, but yeah, it will take me about 5 minutes. But yeah, so you know, we have over 50 confirmed brands at the moment. We'll probably have up to about 70 brands from around the world. You know, micro brands and independents, and the reason we called it Timezones is we're giving the event a bit of a unique theme and a bit of a spin. We want it to be a geographical exploration of timepieces from around the world. So exhibitors will be grouped together from their respective time zones, which ties in with the whole theme. So, you know, you'd come in and you'd find watches from the United Kingdom, from France, Switzerland, of course, and surprisingly, some nations you'd never even think about in terms of horology. And we wanted really to showcase these types of brands to the watchmaking community and to enthusiasts. So we're very excited. It's our inaugural event of this size. We've done several to date on a smaller scale. Ralph, you mentioned, for example, you know, what we had done with Independence Days in December, but this is on a much grander scale. So yeah, we're excited about it, guys, and we have a lot going on. There will be watchmaking classes as well offered to visitors. We've got a big, well-known strap maker who will be there on site as well. We have dial painting.
Can you name him?
Can I name? Yeah, Deluxe. Deluxe will be there.
Oh, we were just talking about them last time.
Yeah.
So Deluxe will be there. Ken and the team will be there.
Fantastic. That's very good.
Yes, and of course, it will be remiss of me not to mention that, you know, we have a special guest who will be releasing a global debut. for the brand, and that's Philippe Piculic.
No, that's amazing.
So he is going to be revealing and unveiling a new timepiece, which the hope is it will really push the brand into a new kind of level. He's been working very hard on this particular piece. It's the Monde Phase 2, so it's the next moon phase. And it won't just be with him. We have other brands who will be doing limited editions and new model launches, some exclusive for Timezones. And we also have 2 or 3 brands who are making their global debuts at the show. So brands no one has ever heard of, and they're ready to launch, and they will be there as well. So lots going on, lots to see. Anyone visiting Dubai Watch Week, I think, would love to discover these types of brands and basically see more and experience more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, look, the names you mentioned, Piculic, you have Laco, you have Sherpa, you have all of these different brands who are already a bit more established, but still considered to be in that realm of independence to a certain extent, or micro brands. There's so many, and this is one of the things of this like storytelling. Just Sherpa, for example, Sherpa watches.
Yes,
it's a German person. I think it's
Martin Klocker.
Martin Klocker, yeah, from my hometown of Düsseldorf, right? So he is, and he has created this movement called the Mantramatic.
Yes,
you have a little prayer mill basically running.
Exactly, yeah.
On your watch, giving you good vibes. I mean,
exactly.
this is such
it's just cool, isn't it? It's just cool. It's something, I mean, when you see it with your own naked eyes, it's quite unbelievable how they've managed to do that with the laser technology. It's so small. I mean, you need a magnifier, but it's things like that which are just phenomenal. I mean, you can see on the page that you're sharing now. We have Rashid Sorov from Russia coming. Yeah. So I love this watch in particular, the Arrow Evo, and this is the first time he's exhibiting. Period. Let alone the first time he's traveling to exhibit the watch anywhere else. It's the first time he's ever been at an exhibition. Yeah. We have another one from Russia, Maxim Shushkov. These are very hard to see in the metal. Right.
Absolutely. It's not easy to even.
No, it's not easy. There is no retailer in the UAE that has them. There's no retailer elsewhere that has them. They are, direct to consumer sales. They don't traditionally go to exhibitions. So we are trying to bring brands that are hard to find, hard to see, off the beaten track, and it is a bit of a mix. I mean, you've mentioned, of course, some more established brands, like Laco, for example, and there will be some other more established brands. I mean, we've got Christopher Ward coming as well, for example.
Venezianico, you have, So there's
Venezianico, So look, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you had to have some established brands there at the show anyway. These are the staples that you see at most exhibitions because that's what people know. But equally, our focus is really on the new exploration of these new micro brands and independents, and we want to offer them a platform to showcase their pieces. And why not right alongside one of the biggest shows on the planet? So that's why we picked this time of year.
So, question: unlike Dubai Watch Week, which is purely exhibiting and connecting to people, do you also offer purchases of watches right there?
Thank you for asking. Yes, we are strongly encouraging this as a sales event. Absolutely. So as I had mentioned, some of the brands will be creating limited editions. Some of the brands are going to be announcing new models. So absolutely, it is in their interests to generate sales. Remember, these are not Rolexes, Cartiers, and Omegas, right? They can't really afford to go to exhibitions around the world and not sell and generate money to, at the very least, cover their costs. It's a different category here, guys. So
so bring your wallets.
So bring your wallets. Bring your wallets. There will be payment facilities on site, and absolutely, yes, we are encouraging sales at the event.
Yeah.
So I have to say, my biggest issue with these micro brands and these independence are the fact that you're once again spending a good amount of money on something that you cannot touch and cannot, hold. And by having these kinds of events, that does make it much, much easier. We had the same exact discussion about D-Lugs last week. We were talking about, a lot of people, they don't think about buying a strap because why would I order a strap? Straps are generally not something you could ever buy in person, right? It's very rare that you would go someplace to buy a strap. It's always online. So we mentioned that there was a story about a family that they all had Rolexes on, and all of them were like, we don't need straps. But then they, D-Lugs started this
boutique
shop in Singapore, in the Marina Bay Sands, right?
No, in the Raffles. It's in the Raffles.
In the Raffles, sorry. And then, people now that would have never thought about buying a strap for their watch go in and they're like, oh, okay, I could get behind this. And then we buy straps. And in the same way, if and of course, there's a lot of companies that are now trying to do this. Time and Tide is doing this in London. They have a boutique almost, dedicated to showing off brands that you otherwise couldn't get your hands on.
At least not on a high street. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
This is something that we're missing, not just in UAE, but everywhere, is to have these kinds of companies having 1 or 2 or 3 watches on display somewhere where customers can go and see and feel. Because, for instance, I mentioned I nearly bought a Baltic once.
Yeah.
Then I read a whole bunch of reviews, and everybody said the crown was super squidgy and it was moving around and it didn't inspire any trust in it, right? So had I been able to go to a store and just say, okay, let me see this real fast and play with it, that could have mediated those concerns. Or it could have just said, yes, everybody's correct and these crowns are absolutely terrible. But nonetheless, it would have helped, right?
Well,
and therefore I said, you know what, I'm just not going to order one.
Let me tell you one thing. It's part of the movement. So it's the movement inside that has this wobbly stem. It's not a problem. It's just, of course, if you're not used to this kind of things, then you feel like, oh, that's not nice. But it's not really an issue. But yeah, I can understand why people feel a bit.
No, and I've experienced the same thing. I have backed a couple of projects on Kickstarter in my time. The watch arrived and it was a little bit disappointing. It didn't hit the mark, or the color that I picked didn't work for me, or what. And this is part of the risk of buying blind.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
It is part of the risk. Now, in most cases, that risk is mitigated by the fact that these types of watches are relatively affordable. And I'm not referring, Martin, to the 5K-ish category you're talking about. I'm talking about, the ones which are, in some cases,
$500.
Yeah. It's. I don't like to use the word punt, but it was a punt. You saw it. Oh, no, that's cool. Okay, nice design. All right, dimensions look good. Okay, I'll buy one. Doesn't work out, I'll sell it. Even if I take a small hit on it, it's not going to change my life dramatically. So, I think the majority of buyers for these types of watches fall into that category, right? Watch collecting, watch addiction, whatever you want to call it, spurs on the need to explore and buy new pieces and so on. Now, it gets different at the higher price bracket. This is where I think the point you are making really hits home. When you're looking at a 20K, 30K, 40K independent, I mean, you'd need to be very, very financially comfortable to be able to just buy blind. And I don't know anyone who has bought blind, because if you can afford a watch like that, you can afford to fly to Geneva, go to the watchmaker's workshop, meet him, speak to him, and buy the watch. To be honest, let's be honest.
I have seen this with in some of the watch groups I'm in. For example, with what's his name? Who does the octopus? Felix Kudoki. Yeah, no, it's Stefan Kudoki. Yeah. Felix Habring. I think it's the watch.
That's another. That's
the
a
model is
yeah,
exactly. Kudoki. So I've from a lot of people are now seeing his watches. Maybe on events, maybe on just meetups, right? All of these things, and this is why we actually started with the meetups. So meetups in any shape or form. It can be for any products where you don't have access to it except ordering it in and then being stuck with it because you probably don't even have a market to sell it sometimes, right?
This is the other issue, right? Imagine this, like if I buy something for 5,000 dirhams or more, right? Let's say $5,000 up to, you sell that. If you're lucky enough to sell that, you're losing half of that immediately, right?
Yeah,
Depends.
I mean, maybe
Maybe
not for a Kadoki. I mean, look,
No.
he's the only double GPHG winner. You know, he has a lot of hype behind the
that I
brand.
randomly showed you guys, that dive watch that I showed you for $5,000, right?
Yeah.
That you are not finding, especially, you know, in the vicinity around us. Maybe on Chrono, you'll find a buyer, but it's tough, right?
Yeah.
It is, my point there is seeing the watch in person. And that's why I love these events, and that's why I love also the exchange that you have with in the WhatsApp group, the MIC, so that you have more access to it. You have owners that you can talk to and saying, hey, how does it feel? How comfortable is the bracelet? How big is your wrist? How does it look on you? Right, so you have a bit more pointers. That you're not entirely blind buying things, right?
This is true.
So you have some feedback of the community that you can talk to and ask. You know how often I had actually people where I contacted them and asked them, saying, you have this watch with a specific funky complication, for example. Would you mind taking a small video for me and showing me how actually this actually works if you move the hands forward? And of course, everybody's happy to share that. And then this opens up your understanding of all of these things much more. And it's a very supportive group.
And the point, Martin, you made about, you know, having hands-on experience. I mean, we have, through MIC and the brands that participate on the platform, we've done something like 30 or 35 showcases in Dubai for these brands. So they send us some watches and we do a small meetup for them. It's not an event, it's not an exhibition as such. It is just to give people who are interested in the brand that hands-on experience. We've done one recently for Space One. We did Moran Muzi recently. We did one for Atelier Wen. We did one for Selton, Sartori Billard, Radcliffe, Vitrium. You know, these are the types of brands you don't see in shops. They're not retailed. They are hard to come across. So it's all in an effort to give, you know, more eyes and more people the opportunity to put the watch on the wrist, see how it wears, learn more about the brand, you know, and of course, you know, generate some sales for the brand as well, you know, in a bid to help them. So all of these events take up a lot of time, and doing it one by one, you know, it's you know, we're scratching the surface, to be honest. So it came to a point in our journey where, you know, our community is now big enough, large enough, and strong enough to have pushed us to do a full-blown exhibition of this scale. And that really gave birth to the whole concept of Timezones, and it's what we wanted to do. You know, we're not a monetized entity. I mean, what we do make is literally, I mean, peanuts, you know, just to keep the lights on, to be able to manage our time, to keep the community going. But we are not a commercial entity. You know, we don't have bricks and mortar. We don't, you know, we're not a retailer. It's really just to help the micro and indie space with promotion and marketing for the very reasons you guys have identified. So, you know, this is our way of trying to bridge that gap. And in many ways was the reason why MIC was created in the first place. To give the brands a platform to showcase and market their products, at least virtually within a WhatsApp community group.
I must say it's just a fantastic event, and I think Sartori Billard was also one of the brands that I looked at and I thought, I see one of these in my future eventually. So there's unfortunately there's so many brands that you seem to like when you actually see them in person and you think, wow, this is so nice. And back to Martin's point as well, the trying things in the metal is so important, because we had this discussion last time when we talked about Deluxe. They now have this cool strap. How do you call it? The strap. You can the strap tool online, where you can just customize your strap and see it, how it would look on your watch.
Yes.
Which is like 80% there, but then the remaining 20% are equally as important as the 80% before, is how does it look on your wrist, on your skin tone? Because that's sometimes I have ordered so many straps that I thought they look amazing on the watch, they look amazing in the photo. I put them on my wrist, and with my skin tone, it just looks like, oh no, sorry, didn't work. So it can happen, and this is the cool thing of seeing things in person. So
have you seen pictures of their new showroom, by the way?
Yeah. I've seen, yeah.
Okay, so we were talking with Ken, and we're trying to do something very similar for them at Timezones. So actually, if you guys come, their exhibition space, the back wall is going to look very reminiscent of their showroom. So all
lovely.
the straps will be there. You could see all the colors, the different materials, and I'm sure whether you want something bespoke or something off the shelf, you will be able to see a large proportion of the whole collection that they offer. So yeah, that's quite exciting for us, and Deluxe in particular. I mean, they've done extremely well in the last couple of years. I mean, you're seeing them now collabing with so many brands. The straps supplied with a lot of the new releases are in fact Deluxe straps. They seem to be everywhere. They've got their marketing strategy on point. You just keep seeing them pop up everywhere. They're not just the straps itself, but the clasps. I mean, the CTS, which has become a sort of favorite.
That means for people who don't know, cut to size. These are rubber straps.
The rubber strap, but even with the butterfly clasp, they've got this spring-hinged clasp now, which has become industry standard. And, there are so many... it's fun. A friend of mine sent me this thing the other day. It was a quote by Coco Chanel. She said, if you want to achieve greatness, be prepared to be copied. My gosh, how true is that? So, I've seen so many knockoff versions of the Deluxe clasp, and that's because they're onto something.
Temu is selling you. There's a whole bunch of them. They look identical to not just the strap, but the whole
shebang.
CTS straps exactly with the clasp complete. And because of course Deluxe doesn't put anything on the clasp itself, right? So it doesn't say Deluxe anywhere. So it's a one-to-one replica.
Yeah, but there's always a quality difference usually, and the second thing is also the innovation that they do.
Even with in looks, right? So we're talking Chinese Temu prices as well. Exactly. On top of this.
And the other thing is, of course, that you have the even the pin buckle with adjustment now, right? That they have introduced.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Which is also something cool. Like, wow, you have like a few millimeters of adjustment in a pin buckle, which is also sometimes when you have just the holes in the wrong spots for your wrist, right? And you think, one too tight, one too loose. And with that, you even rectify this. So
Ken showed me a prototype as well of the new butterfly clasp that they've got. Don't know if it's undercover or not, but I'll tell you anyway. So, Ken, if you're listening, apologies. But they've actually done a new version with a micro adjust in the CTS butterfly clasp.
Oh, that's good.
It's really cool the way it operates. You literally just pull it out, and it gives you an extra, couple of mil or whatever you need. So
it's like the overseas, right? Vacheron Constantin overseas, where you have this in a butterfly clasp on each side. You have, I think, 2 or 3 millimeters.
Exactly.
I mean, I have this watch, and it's just that's one of the things that thought for me made it like a butterfly clasp acceptable, right? Because otherwise you always have this problem that it's just fixed. But this
remember,
is so
I
cool.
sold my Santos because I could not fit it. It was either too big or too small, and that was it. With the butterfly clasp, it was terrible.
Speaking of the Santos, they do straps for the Santos as well now. They got around that patent. They're back again.
Exactly. Mine was right when the first one came out, and then they discontinued it. And
this is one I think is fantastic to see brands like the Richemont Group making a 180-degree turn. Deluxe did their Cartier straps. They basically sued them, said you kind of have to stop this, right, or cease and desist, whatever. And eventually they came around and said like, okay, you know what? Make these straps. And now they have even collaborated with Vacheron Constantin, also a Richemont brand. And Vacheron Constantin is selling the Deluxe straps in a limited edition in their boutique in Singapore.
If that's not success, I don't know what is.
This is just how did they turn around and said like instead of fighting, maybe join them. right?
No, I mean, imagine how many of these rubber straps Cartier could sell in the boutiques. I mean, you have the Cartier red, boom, you'd sell 1 million. And the fact that they don't, a lot of these, then this is once again going back to why sometimes we would want to go with micro brands or independents is because of reasons like this. Big brands tend to be extremely,
rigid,
set in their ways. They don't want to do anything new. And the fact that, Richemont allowed this to happen shows a little bit of flexibility, but that's about as much as you're going to get from these brands, right? Try to get Rolex to do something, right? It's never going to happen. On the other hand, these micro brands, they just kind of go with the flow and do whatever you want. And that is the big selling point there is you never know what's going to come.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
One more or two more questions I have for you, Omar, before we have to let you go because it's time. And of course, we had the worst of the worst time slots. You had a fire alarm. I have here construction going on. We will try to mix this out of the recording later on. So
if you don't hear it, we did it well.
Yeah, exactly.
If you do hear it, we apologize.
But two more questions. One is, did you see any kind of recent trends in the micro brand world evolve? Is there any shift in trends recently?
Good question.
It's a very broad question, but
look, I mean, they trends.
Or let me
pop in. I'm going to say one real fast, and you can think about your answer while I answer one. One of the trends we just talked about, right? Why do you think these big brands have started doing micro adjust in bracelets? It stemmed from, I guess Rolex was the first one to kind of do it, but then all of the micro brands started doing bracelets with micro adjust at like $1,000 price points. And everybody started saying like, why do we spend $5,000 on a terrible bracelet when for $1,000 we can get a really, really good one from a micro brand? So for some reason, the micro brands managed to get this bracelet, and in this case, the straps as well, to a price per quality standard that beat all of the big brands. And then this forced the bigger brands to kind of admit defeat and say, okay, I guess we do have to do micro adjust.
Yeah.
Even Grand Seiko came out with micro adjust. And it wouldn't have been if it wasn't for these micro brands.
If it wouldn't have been basically mainstream already, based on these little brands who actually did this, the cheaper brands who actually started to have better comfort than the expensive ones, which you think would start there. Same as
and it doesn't stop and start with the bracelet or the strap, as you say. It could even be materials for the dial. I mean, 2024/2025 has been the year of stone dials. I'll be honest, I'm kind of sick of stone dials. I've seen so many malachites and agate and, oh my God, aventurine. You ask about trends, Ralph. They do have a tend. I don't want to say copy each other. That's not the right way to put it, but they do follow each other in terms of the trends. They follow
like
the
fashion.
times. So if one brand has massive success in selling stone dials, you'll suddenly see another 10 offering stone dials. But
now it's jumping hours.
Well, I mean, jumping hours, yes, but jumping hours have existed for.
Yeah, but this is
and so are stone dials.
Man did this, and now there's a bunch of other micro brands that are starting to kind of
Look,
get in on it.
It's the same with fashion. It's the same with fashion. Things come into fashion. They're on point. They're with the times. They come out of fashion, and then 20 years later, guess what? They're fashionable again. Start getting your vintage stuff out of the cupboard. People think it's super cool. So it's a revolving door. It's a carousel. What goes around comes around. So trend-wise, yes, you're right. There have been a few more new jumping hour complications. I think Maine just did one recently.
Correct.
Fears have one. There's so many.
It seems like everybody is now having these. I mean, Cartier has brought one out, right?
So Cartier is not exactly in the same category. But there's another one that my friend just picked up.
But I was just saying.
Let me find the one my friend just got because it was. I'll tell you in a moment.
Yeah, it's just my next question would be: okay, these are the trends that just go through the entire watch industry until they are, they run itself out, or they just be part of our just general permanent offerings, right? So some trends.
Zentier, the
Zentier,
also
yes.
which is stone and jumping hours. So combine the two.
There you go.
Yes.
So I think there's of course there's certain trends that are becoming popular and they come and go, and then there are some that come and stick around, right? At least for a period of time, that they are just an option to have. My last question to you, Omar, is how are microbrands and the independents doing in the Middle Eastern region specifically? Because here, I think we had seen a huge push into them, then a bit of a drawback when the market went down. And one more thing I wanted to say, I think we see a lot of these microbrands and these smaller producers flourishing now because of the big brands suffering a bit. I know that sounds a bit bad, that they are benefiting from the big brands suffering, but this frees capacity from the producers that usually have years of order books, right? And huge orders that wouldn't even consider you if you order 500 pieces or 1,000 pieces of something. But now, because of the big brands cutting back on orders, this production capacity is there, and suddenly they think, well, I can entertain now smaller orders and quicker turnaround times. This is what I didn't do. One is the technical advancement, and the other one is capacity. Is there?
Yeah, I mean, several points which relate to this. I mean, one, you've got customer awareness, right? Consumer awareness. We have drawn parallels with, micro brands and independents producing parts much cheaper than the established brands.
Yeah.
That does not mean the part is that much more inferior, right? Actually, some of these brands are producing exceptional quality at an amazing price point. So let the price not fool you. It's just they don't have the large overheads of, say, a Rolex or an Omega or a Cartier. So they don't have to charge that much.
Yes.
I think there is a shift for some people moving away from the established brands, because what they knew as being the pinnacle of watches are the established brands. They are now starting to realize and recognize that actually there are much more affordable options at a very similar quality level. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is a lot of these brands are simply not available here in the Middle East. I mean, if you want to focus on our local market, we don't have so many retailers. There are a few which are trying to push, particularly on the independent side, less so on the micro brand side. But there are some retailers. Perpetual Gallery is one. Waqt, you've got Project 8 in Bahrain, Clay in Saudi Arabia, etc. There's a few in the region that really specialize in the independent space. But if you're talking about Satori Billard and Vitrium and these types of brands, it's hard. So to answer your question, how are they doing in the Middle East? We're at the infancy. We don't have 5-6 years of data to tell you whether it's going up or down, right? It's in its infancy, and it's just, in my opinion, just starting on the way up. More and more people are interested in this segment. No one is covering it at the moment. I think it's you're going to start seeing more retailers approaching these micro brands to start stocking them, showcasing them, signing them on, doing limited editions, because that's always the way retailers here operate. For some reason, they have to have their own limited edition for everything. So it will come. It will come. Yeah. The community in the Middle East, I mean, you know this, Ralph, as much as I do. You've been here longer than I have. It's a growing community. Every time you go to these events, there's more and more people turning up. And that's because there's an interest in this sector. I think the last time I did some research on this, the micro brand and independent space accounted for 5 to 10% of the overall watch market. That was actually higher than I expected. It's growing about 1 to 2% year on year, which is quite aggressive growth. Now, if it's growing that much, that means the established brands are losing that much. So there is definitely a paradigm shift. I agree with you. And I think the only way is up, and it's looking quite positive for the micro and indie space.
Yeah. So what better way to just check this out? If you anyways come for Dubai Watch Week, which you should, then just hop over. Do you need to register for your event? Do you need? Is there?
You do. It's free registration.
Okay.
Our website will be launched hopefully this time next week. So more on that in due course. But please follow our Instagram.
What's the website going to be?
The website will be timezonesofficial.com.
Timezonesofficial.com. All right.
And our Instagram is also timezonesofficial. So please follow all of our updates and brand announcements, exhibitor announcements will be there. So we would love to see you all there.
Sorry, it's timezones_official. That's
correct.
The
correct.
Official
Yes.
one. Yeah. Okay. And you'll find all of the information there as well. And if you want to join the Micro and Indy Collective,
just head over. Yeah, thanks, Ralph. Head over to our, again, Instagram account, which is just Micro Indy Collective. And you will see a link there to just join the community.
Yeah. So I can just speak for myself. It's a fantastic community, very helpful, super nice. Very busy, so you can tune in and out at multiple times. You don't have to follow everything unless you want to, but it's really, really nice to see that. So that's great. So I think there's free entry. You just register to know how many people are coming, so just to make sure that it's a bit managed there. Can you register on the spot if you didn't register? Just in case.
We would prefer registration ahead of time, but just again to manage numbers. But yeah.
Take out your phone.
Just say we sent you. Say the Lume plotter sent you, and we'll let you in. There you go.
Code word, and you get access.
That's the code word.
Exactly.
Without that, you will not get in.
Yeah. So fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Omar.
Well,
and
thank
maybe
you, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Shorter before the event, we'll have you on again.
It'll be my pleasure.
Yes.
It'll be my
see
pleasure.
How many more brands you have signed up for that? I mean, this is really fantastic to see.
It is. Once again, guys, it's going to be in November, so we got tons of time. This is well in advance, but it's nice to know that we're thinking about it, right?
Absolutely. 21st, 22nd November 2025 in the Armani Hotel, Burj Khalifa. I mean, even that is just worth a visit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, guys.
Wonderful.
We'll be there for sure. So
I can't wait to have you. I mean, we're going to hook up beforehand, of course.
We will record an episode from your show. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thank you very much for your time, Omar.
Yeah,
thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck with
Have a great day. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
See you.
Bye-bye.